All right, what's up, guys? Let me close this out here. Today's gonna be kind of a weird one. Decided to I didn't want to skip a week. I wanted to do a stream, so I wanted to kind of get one in before the Super Bowl because who the hell can compete with that? And I know most of you are gonna be tied up with the Super Bowl, so Saturday it is. Let me see here. Got anybody in yet? Anybody? Uh-oh. Looks like we're having problems on the Rumble side. Well, sorry guys. It looks like Rumble's not gonna be going tonight. I don't know why. Might have to dump it here in a little bit. Okay, so springtime's right around the corner, man, and I can't wait. Time to haul ass and burn gas. Even though, we got a lot of dumb shit in the air and everything is going on, I don't see any that's what I love about the car culture is it never stops and it's always predictable because springtime's always go time. So today I wanted to come in here and talk about, well, a lot of us Hellcats, Mustangs, we're all kind of in the same boat, except for the Coyote. A lot of the V8s, cross-plane V8s, the power band comes on the same. So I kind of want to talk about boost options today. I'm not going to be talking centrifugal, Pro Charger style, anything of that sort, because I'm just not a fan of them. Myself, I think for a cross-plane V8, typical American V8, the power band, which they come on to, it's not that beneficial. I mean, if you're at the drag strip, if you're building a track rat, and it's like, you need to dial it in at, if you need to hit a number or a mile an hour consistently, I think a Pro Charge is the way to go. But other than that, I think either twin turbo or a positive PD blower on top, whether it be a twin screw or a Roots. Myself, I'm a big fan of Roots. I got a couple videos loaded up here today. Might be a long one today, but that's okay. There's a lot, a shitload of good information in here. So if you don't know much about blowers, hang around, just hang in there. I really don't think we're going to be having a whole lot of comments here. So, because I don't think a lot of people are going to be in today. My channel's not big enough to be, switching times or switching schedules on you guys. So I think it'll be cool. We'll get in here. Gale Banks, he's a legend in the diesel world. Man, I could sit there and listen to that guy. There's a few of these guys I could just listen to all freaking day. Young Draco, what's up, buddy? Yeah, so he was running a long time ago. I watched this video of he was building some diesel for up in Pikes Peak, running circuits and all that shit that they do. So it's going to be pretty interesting today. So if you don't know about blowers, we're going to talk a lot about blowers simply because it's what ZL1 comes with. It's the easiest to bolt on. You kind of set it and forget it. So it's very, very popular. A lot of people don't go turbo. Some do. It's common. I might. But right now, I'm kind of having fun with this positive displacement blower because under like 1,000 wheel horsepower, it's by far the cheapest and easiest way to go. That and also blowers don't affect the exhaust noise, so you get full freaking note. Yeah, we're gonna appreciate that, bud. I did find a new tuner. I might be doing a video on that. I don't know. I kind of want to do some to and fro with this guy. I don't have a lot of experience with remote tuning, but he's going to be leaving the country here soon, so directly after the stream, I have to go do some testing. So I don't know. I might talk on that. I might even try to get him on here. I think that would be cool. But it is what it is. So blowers, positive displacement blower, like I said, by far the easiest. Set it, forget it. It's consistent. It does create a lot of heat. There's a tiny bit. I don't even really consider it like parasitic drivetrain loss, or it does take power, but the power that you get in return is like tenfold. It's massive. So I don't think it's really a true parasitic. Yeah. I think that positive displacement blower doesn't produce much wear and tear on a motor, not as much as everybody says. So, yeah, I'll get into it here. Let's just talk. I'll let Gail take it away here.
What we're doing here is making the big comparison to the 1071, and we've just run step tests all the way through 5,000 RPM. Now I want to come back and run some specific tests, and I'm going to pick kind of the mid-range of where we've been operating, say 3,200 RPM, and we're going to run the same horsepower, and then we're going to run the same fuel flow as with the 1071 at 3,200 RPM. We weren't putting a lot of fuel in, and we still haven't put a lot of fuel into this program. But bear in mind, all I'm looking for is a comparison of superchargers. I ran the 1071 dry, we got our data, and I killed the blower. I killed it because I ran it dry. I knew there was a chance of doing that. Most guys run 71 series GMC style blowers with fuel going through them to help crutch the fact that they heat the living hell out of the air. So what are we doing here? We're running on a diesel. There's no fuel in either blower. We're looking at the blowers on their own. No crutches, no Band-Aids. We're doing it on a diesel. There's no throttle. You throttle the diesel by adding or subtracting fuel. If you add too much, you kill the engine. But you subtract fuel to get the thing back to idle. There's nothing impeding the airflow in and out of that supercharger. Perfect place to compare them. So we're using the engine kind of as a test bench. It's the same engine, it's the same RPM, same dyno cell, same two guys running the damn thing. Everything's the same except for the supercharger. The 1071 was running 20% over crank speed. We fooled a little with the Whipple. This is a 5.0 Whipple. We've got the boost pretty equivalent to what the boost was with the GMC, but the air mass flow, if the blower's more efficient, the air mass flow will be greater at the same boost.
I'm just giving you guys context right now.
Not a number I normally use, other than to calculate air mass flow, air density, those sorts of things that are meaningful to an engine guy. Boost is only meaningful to the guy who's selling you the supercharger. From there on out, it's a mindless number. So what really matters is the air mass you're moving through the engine. That's what you get to mix with fuel mass.
Bingo.
And the air mass per cubic foot is the golden standard. And that's what this is all about. Before we get to the test, I want to show you how these blowers are different mechanically. The 1071 is a Roots. It takes air in the top, which is facing towards the bench. Both of these are bottom up. And it drives the air around the outside of the case, and the rotors mesh together and push the air into the intake manifold.
This is
With
Roots.
the screw, this is a 5-liter Whipple. The air is inducted in the rear, and the two rotors thread together, one male, one female, and squeeze the air forward and out through this triangular exit, much like you're squeezing toothpaste out of a tube. In the last episode, I told you about the Roots brothers and their pre-Civil War technology. Now,
Boom. So that kind of gives you a little bit of context of exactly what a Roots blower is, what a twin screw blower is. And the factory ZL1 comes with the Roots. I like Roots. I prefer Roots. That was kind of long. If it kind of looked like twitchy and shit, I was because I had it. The speed turned up to 1.5. Gail's kind of older, so he talks a little slower. So sped the video up, and that and copyright. So Roots versus twin screw. I don't know. A lot of people seem to be going back to Roots. Roots come in hard. They come in fast. It's instant freaking power. Twin screw seems to take a little bit to build. Twin screw is old. They're both old technology, but everyone thinks that a centrifugal is actually the combination of the two, or like a hybrid of the two between turbo and supercharger. But I actually think twin screw is more so the case. But Roots. Actually, I'm gonna let Mike get into it here, but there's a couple. Ever since I started down my tuning process, I've been learning, breaking everything down, what it is, why it does what it does, why it has an application for what it is. So We'll get in here just a little bit. I'm going to be done with Gale. So throughout my process at the tuning school, I did, and that's the online course. They do have a hands-on course, but I doubt I'm going to be going to Florida anytime soon. I wish I could, but so these videos are free. They're online, and if you want to check them out yourself, it's just the tuning school. But I found one that which I was going through my course, and it was really good, and I kind of want to share it with you guys. So we'll go here. I'm gonna add it in, and we'll just start from the beginning. We're gonna watch this one to the end. I'll break it up where I need to, but yeah.
All right. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here with Mike Sitar from Magnuson Superchargers, and Mike is actually the president, and he's formerly from Eaton. So we're going to pick his brain today, and we're going to go pretty deep into the world of positive displacement superchargers. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Welcome.
So I'll give you some context here real quick. Mike has left Magnuson Superchargers. He's actually the LS9 blower, the engineer. 1.7 blower that's on our ZL1 and Z06. He also was the engineer behind that too. He wasn't the only one, but he had a heavy influence on it. I actually had a chance to talk to Mike because since then he has left and he now owns Too High PSI. I have done some research, and when I was talking to Mike, this guy, he is so freaking smart. And you're gonna see here in just a little bit, but he doesn't hold anything back, and he is he's a real genuine, real nice guy. I talked to him on the phone for about a half hour or so. Mike, if you're seeing this, I'll be reaching out here real soon, buddy. So Too High PSI, he's the one that set me up with my port injection kit. All my questions I had, I was trying to get him on the show here. So, but we'll check this out. I'm gonna let Mike and Bob go at it here just a little bit longer.
Hi, thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're happy to sit with you and chat for a little bit, man. We've been doing this Tech Tuesday series for forced induction. We've had so many inquiries from guys in the past that said, hey, I want to learn more about forced induction, what's right for me, and I want to really kind of learn deeper, about these types of things. So in the last couple of videos, we've talked a lot about turbos, positive displacement, and centrifugal, and today positive displacement. So let me just start by asking you, what's the major benefits of going with a positive displacement over a centrifugal blower or say a turbo, something like that?
Sure. Okay, well, majority of it is based around performance. It's the low speed operation all the way through the high speed.
Sure.
And I think a lot of it's the technology's advanced over the years. The previous early Eaton rotors and the Eaton, even before that, the 671s and the 871 type blowers had a really good low speed response. But as the RPM went up, they tended to really beat the air and not provide really good performance up there. So over the years, there's been continual development in these devices, which allows them to provide as well as an extended high-speed performance. So your benefit with a positive displacement unit is the instantaneous torque. It basically boosts as fast as you can open the throttle, and then providing that power quite efficiently right through the entire operating range.
So what you're saying is they've really improved a lot since their early days, and no longer is it just like a low to mid-range type device. You can carry that power now.
Correct. That's right.
Cool.
So it, like I said, it allows that much higher efficiencies, and a lot of them are based around the design of the rotors and things like that are put in these devices today.
Cool. So I would imagine, with the development of computer software and all the stuff you guys have, you can develop blades and rotors and things that are just taking efficiency to some higher level than you used to have, so you don't quite get such high IATs and stuff as you used to. Is that where most of the benefits are coming?
Most definitely. And I mean, in every case, even with these units here, the design of the specific unit is quite important. When we look at the OEM type scenarios, like when providing units for GM, whether it be a Z06 or ZL1 or any of the boosted items that happen there, GM have very big focus around the low speed performance as well as the noise control.
There
are two things which are not terribly important in the aftermarket world.
Right, yeah.
at Magnuson, then we tend to
Boom, right there. So that tells you right back in your face there. Tells you right there as to why we didn't get that much blower whine out of the 1.7. GM they actually put it in the forefront to take it more seriously, to keep it quiet. That way, well, actually, I don't know. I ain't got a good answer for that because it's bullshit. But I know that Dodge, I can't remember, IMI or whoever, I can't remember, is the maker of those blowers. They actually went out of their way to make those rotors actually beat the air and give you that whine. So I don't know, but this dude did have a major hand in designing that supercharger from the ground up. The LS, the 2.2 or 2.3 liter, I can't remember what's on the LS9 and the LSA. This guy was also the big cheese at freaking Eaton at the time too. So I'll let him get back after here.
focus more on the performance side.
Sure.
So we'll take a little bit of trade-off in noise, a little trade-off in low-speed performance even possibly, to deliver a much higher high-speed performance.
Bullshit.
And that allows us to tailor that compressor map
Right.
for that supercharger to the application that we want to have it on.
Okay.
So
Yeah, well, that makes perfect sense. So I think this is the next question I have, and we've compounded these questions from Tech Tuesday guys watching all over the world, and the most popular question by far has been, explain to me the different types of positive displacement blowers. So everybody just says, oh, it's a roots blower, and what does that, I know there's several different types, and what can you elaborate on that a little bit on what types there are and kind of the physical differences under that?
Well, typically a roots blower will have two symmetrical rotors. They'll be opposites of each other, but they will be the same basic rotor. And within a roots device, there's generally no ability to do any sort of compression. Even though the rotors can get more twist, they still have what we refer to as blowholes through the top of the rotor set if you twist them too far. And if you go a little bit too far, then they actually leak the whole time. A screw, on the other hand, is the other type of positive displacement device. That does have intermeshing rotors. So you have a male and a female rotor in those, which allow you to close that blowhole that would exist if you want to twist it more.
So you're getting actual compression in a twin screw then?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
Theoretically, you're trying to get internal compression.
Okay.
The problem you have is that, in many screws, the control volume is quite small. As you might guess, there's, some have 5.3 per lobe, some have 4.6 per lobe. And if you take that displacement divided by those amount of control volumes, and then we look at the leakage, say 8 or 10 thousandths of clearance in some of those units, then the internal compression you'd like to actually see, quite often gets lost.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we found in a lot of cases, hence the reason we developed the TVS series.
Now, when you say 5.3 and 4.6, what measurement are you referring to?
I'm referring to the number of lobes on the rotors.
Okay.
So a screw.
Sorry, I mean unmute my mic there. Sorry, that's exactly what Gail was talking about when he showed us. I'll show you right here. That's the male and female. See how they're different sizes? And actually they mesh together. So when he's talking that twist, typically, I think, as far as I know, usually they're getting like 160-degree twist. So as far as, not quite a 180, so it's perfectly indexed, but that's as far as they can take the twist and still not be leaking air. So the TVS series, as far as Eaton or any of the roots go, that's the one you want to stick with because just exactly what he just said. So, but like I'll bring it back in here. That's the male-female as far as a screw goes. So when he's talking the difference, that's what they mean. So you see that one's got the five lobes and the other one's got 3. The male side's got 3 lobes and the female's got 5. You're limited by the speed of that because the 5 lobes actually going to be spinning slower than the 3 lobe, but you have to be able to balance the speed out. So that's your limitation in a twin screw supercharger.
Screws always have a male and a female.
Okay.
One will have normally 4 and the other one will be 6.
Oh, 5 and 3, I understand. Lobes per, I get it. That makes perfect sense.
The one other thing that also limits us a little bit too, and that type of positive displacement design is the maximum speed.
Yes.
you're always spinning, you're belt driving normally the slower rotor, which would be the one with the 5 lobes on it.
Right.
And the 3 lobe has to spin that
Opposite. Yeah.
that many times faster, 5/3 times faster to keep up.
Wow.
So you quickly run into bearing limitations in some cases. Where on a roots blower, the 2 lobes spin exactly the same speed.
Okay.
So your bearing limitation is not based off just one rotor, it's based off of both.
Okay.
Boom. That's it right there. That's why I'm sticking with the freaking roots blower. Because you can just freaking twist the hell out of that thing. You can crank up the rotor speed and you can max it out. Now with the twin screw, like what's on the Hellcats, you run into limitations on them real fast. Just like he said, that headroom fills up real fast. So you're not able to, that's why a lot of these Hellcat guys are going strictly to turbo, because you either have to have a massive supercharger. That's why, like the Hellcats, they've always had like a 4-liter, and we haven't. That's why. That's exactly why. So I'm gonna let him keep going here.
Okay.
And that allows them to run a much higher speed. So
Okay.
effectively, a smaller roots device will pump more air than an equivalent larger device.
Which
because
would be
of
your
the
twin
speed.
screw. Okay. That makes
Right.
sense. And so you talked a second ago about the TBS series. Can you elaborate on that as to why that would be, the next, the future there?
Right. Well, the TVS is it's the latest generation from Eaton.
Okay.
Magnuson uses an Eaton rotating group,
Mm-hmm.
so we purchased that rotating group from Eaton. Then we produce our own housings, porting, clearances, bearings, everything else we want to run is done as per our specification.
Okay.
So, and that's just currently the latest version.
Okay.
There is some other TVSs out there. There's a TVS2 that's been released. That is more of a focus towards a low-speed, faster response device.
So more like a GM
specifically
OEM.
for use in a compound boosting system.
Oh,
So,
compound boost. So like a
So
fire
that's
truck.
That's kind of where that's heading to. But as we move on, there will of course be TBS 3 and 4 and items along those ways.
That makes
So-
sense. That makes so. Are all the TBSs twin screw or are they?
They're all roots.
They're all
and
roots?
they're all roots, and they're all a 4-lobe design.
Okay. And so,
So-
if you were building a combo for the average street car, which would you recommend? The roots type, the twin screw, or what would you look at?
Well, I mean, generally the roots is pretty much the TVS specifically roots is pretty much the most efficient positive displacement blower out there.
Okay.
I don't know any of them that are more efficient
Bingo.
than that unit. The only thing we run into with the TVS is a limit on size.
Okay.
So, the largest unit that Eaton currently makes is a 2300.
Yep.
So a 2.3 liter.
Mhm.
So that limits us to that kind of power output from there.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of where you'll see other people, move to some different brands in some cases and different designs, merely because they want more size.
More
It's just
displacement.
not big enough.
Right.
So, so that's pretty much the only limitation. No, the TVS is, it's on all the OEM vehicles. Eaton's
Right.
the only OEM supplier that exists out there, and there's a reason because Eaton
Sure.
can test everything, and so can the OEMs.
Right.
So when they test everything,
There's trust.
they have the data. I mean, what you don't know, you don't know. But if you do know, then you make your decision off that. So
That's a very good point. So, given that there are some variants in sizes, how would you correctly size a roots type blower or something? A positive displacement blower. Let's say you're the average enthusiast at home or shop owner. I mean, we have a lot of shop owners that they get these questions every day. A guy comes in with his Camaro, his Mustang. He's like, "Man, I need a blower. What do I get?" Okay, well, we need to get you something that's of the roots type variety. How would they know which size really to recommend?
okay, well, like I said, a lot of it will depend on the performance you're looking for from the vehicle and how you want the vehicle to drive.
Okay.
If we're looking at a car, let's say a Camaro or something like that,
Yeah.
we would probably put the largest unit we have on that at 2300.
Okay.
Which is going to give you a little softer, low-speed performance.
Mhm.
You'll still have a great boost response and still quite a bit of boost down low. But then it shifts your performance island in the map to a higher operating point. And that's, of course, going to align with
I'm gonna stop him right there because those of you that don't know, a performance island. Get my damn camera to focus here. It looks like this. I brought them in. So you have to take the engine out of the equation. You have to free your mind up, and you have to think the supercharger. So they're artificially spinning it up to an RPM, and that's what they're measuring is the output of that. So the 1740, which comes stock on our Z06s and ZL1s, looks like that. Now, the dark blue area is obviously where it's going to be the most efficient. Like I said, there's a lot of things going on here. So this is more of a three-dimensional map forced into a 2D is kind of the way my brain kind of took to it easier. So the yellow lines are going to be the rotor speeds. Now, just like he said, the freaking rotors on the roots are symmetrical, same size. So you can spin them. They're 50-50, so you can spin them just as fast. So the yellow is the rotor speed, and I don't know if you can see my mouse. The red kind of coming out of diagonal lines, kilowatts, which is produced. But the blue is what you want to focus on. Then this is where that blower, and this is going to be, I'm assuming, off of one run, because this blower does get exhausted real quick. Now running down the axis on the sides, and when I say axis, I mean like the X and Y axis. I'll bring it back up here. The bottom is going to be mass air, so that's actually kilograms of air per hour flow through that. And then the vertical is going to be pressure ratio. It's measured off of bar. So 1 bar is equivalent to 1 atmospheric pressure. So it kind of gives you an example of, like, you know, right around about 1.5, maybe 1.6, with the rotor speeds of about 9,000 RPM is going to be the sweet spot on this blower. And that's if you can keep it cool. You know what I'm saying? So the roots is definitely where I think that you want to stay as far as like ZL1 goes. Sorry, my camera's wanting to pick up my mic there. So I'll let him keep going. But when they say power islands, you can see the little circles, the little ovals, the rings kind of looks like a tree. That kind of gives you those percentages of like percentage of efficiency, because this is like an efficiency chart. That's what he's talking about. So I kind of wanted to break down the chart and the map and just let you guys, because it's real easy to get lost in the jargon. So I'll shut my mouth here and I'll let him keep going.
With where your peak torque is going to be or your peak power.
Okay.
And the further you push that high efficiency island up to the operating range, that's what will give you the highest performance from that standpoint.
So
but
similar to a turbo.
If we're running a pickup truck,
right,
of the exact same size engine, let's say we have a 6.2 liter pickup,
mm-hmm.
I would probably go with a slightly smaller unit, a 1900 or even a 1740 for pickup trucks, mainly because you have a lot more mass there to get moving. And you'll take that advantage of the torque at lower speed to get that big vehicle moving.
Yeah, that makes sense. So similar to cam design, really, when you think about it. You're not going to put a giant...
That's exactly why right there. That's exactly why we got such a small blower. I know what a lot of people, including myself, for a long time have complained, said, what's up, Hurt? Yeah. I just don't think a lot of people talk about them. A lot of people touch on them, and I think it's important information. And I think it's important information if you're shopping for a car, if it already has a blower on it, or if it's, you're looking to put one on, or, whatever. It's just good. Knowledge is power, man. Knowledge is power. That's where I'm going to leave it, buddy. It's good to see you, man. Good to see you. Yeah. So as far as why we got the 1.7, that's why. So LSA was 1.9. Now I can't remember specifically how heavy the Gen 5 Camaro was, the ZL1. I don't think I've ever looked at the specs on that. But the Gen 6 was about 3,900 pounds, just a little over. It depends. The 1LE is a tad bit lighter with the manual, but if you go convertible and automatic, all varials are different weights. But that's why they went with such a smaller blower. Because I was wondering, I'm like, why would you? That's why. 4,000 pounds. They wanted that sudden impact. As a matter of fact, I still got. Let me see if it'll pick up here. Yeah. So that's it right there at the beginning. Watch how fast that power comes in. right off the bat. About 2,700 RPM when this is at Paragon. When Graham punched it, you can see that freaking torque curve, how fast it just came in. So, yeah. This little 1.7, that's exactly why they did what they did. But I honestly, genuinely believe, if you're going to be climbing power, big power, this blower needs ported. And, you're going to have to increase the intake size. So, future videos coming up, that's going to be what's up. So, I'm going to let him keep going here.
Giant cam and a pickup truck and go fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, when you're going, it's power under the curve that makes the car go fast.
Right.
I mean, you'll forever
see.
Right.
Boom. Power under the curve. So those of you looking to build your ZL1, 4,000 pounds. Now these imports of which we are trying, Lamborghini Huracans, GTRs, they got all-wheel drive. They're light, and the Lamborghinis, they're shaped like a freaking wedge, so they fly through the air like an arrow. We're kind of at a disadvantage. So the mechanics and everything if we're going to keep up with that, has to be on point. Has to be. It has to be. So sizing everything up as far as power under the curve, like you just said, to me, it's all about the mid-range. So you can come off of the torque, like I just showed you with that little 1.7. So basically you want the 1.7 punch, and then you need that mid-range to carry it through. So that's going to be our big challenge as far as keeping up with GTRs, keeping up with all, you know what I'm saying? So we'll let them keep rolling here.
I mean, I remember all the import stuff, with
I do.
the power numbers and the straight numbers, and there were some good jokes around about some Supras that one.
They're always I know the joke. I have it memorized. It was something about what's the difference between a 400 horsepower Supra and a 1,200 horsepower Supra, and it was like nothing. They both run 13s. One just
exactly, it was something like that.
Yeah, this one's doing 140 at the end.
So like I said, the power under the curve is what we're looking for,
right.
And depending on which vehicle it is, we'll move where that power under that curve occurs at.
Okay.
To make it efficient.
So if you're the average shop owner, you're going to look at it and say, man, you got a big truck here. We need to move you on the lower side of the blower. Now, would they say, are they looking at mass in terms of like weight of vehicle, or are they looking at size in terms of blower? Is that like, what's the deciding factor for them? What's better?
It's generally going to be, I mean, I'll be honest with you, majority of the time the customer is always going to want to pick the largest blower they can pick.
They're guys. It's guys.
Big's better in everyone's mind. And that's just, of course, until they lose to someone else.
Of course.
And then they've got to wonder why.
Yeah.
But, so normally it's just around the fact of how heavy the vehicle is and what you're going to move.
Okay.
I mean, once you start looking at the maps, you can see where the flow is. They're pretty linear flow the whole way across. It's just that efficiency island moving around.
Okay.
And how your power curve moves through that efficiency island.
Okay, that makes sense. So really, it's similar to turbo sizing in that regard.
Most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that. Without the limits. I mean, we don't have a low-speed surge line, so you're not going to run into a surge line. And you still have a maximum speed, but it's normally about twice the width of an equivalent compressor map from a turbo.
Wow,
so
okay.
Move it a lot further than you can with a turbocharger.
Okay.
I mean, a perfect example is, a ZR1 had a 2300 on it, and that was more focused. If you drove one, it was a little softer off the bottom, and they felt like it would still pull right to the moon.
Yeah.
With the ZL6 now, the new ZL6, the C7, you drive one of them, it's an absolute animal at $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah, it is.
It just kind of holds a really flat horsepower curve up at the top.
Right.
And that's the aspect of that smaller blower
on
that larger engine.
Right. So. That makes perfect sense. So in the case of a positive displacement blower, is there a difference in reading like the supercharger's compressor map versus doing it on something like a turbo? Are they very similar?
No, they're fairly different because they're, one's a volumetric device. The Roots device is volumetric.
Right.
So that map is done in volume.
Okay.
And of course you can convert it to kilograms or pounds per,
Pounds per hour,
pounds per hour, pounds per minute, however you want to look at it. So it can be done that way. But it's different the way the unit passes through it.
Okay.
So I would say the actual plotting part's pretty similar.
Okay. But the islands will be different, and the layouts will be a bit different. Are these maps usually available for guys when they're trying to buy? Are they on websites or?
I think Eaton has a good portion of them out there online.
Okay.
I think Eaton was pretty good at trying to get the latest compressor maps out there.
Okay.
But yeah.
So here's the funny part. I made a video on this blower as soon as I got my ZL1, drove it, tested it, kind of gave everybody my impressions of it. As soon as I made, maybe not as soon as I made that video. I made the video, a duration of time passed, whatever happened. Now you go back, there is nothing. It's an error on every web page. I can't get the Eaton information to pull up, but I saved it all. So that part is a little bit of false on their end, but I'm gonna let them keep going here. We don't have really that much further to go.
But you have to remember those compressor maps are from an OEM vehicle.
Okay.
Eaton doesn't do any aftermarket parts themselves,
Okay.
so it's pretty uncommon. You're going to find anything other than a small port, quiet blower out there that's not going to be focused at the high end RPM.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. So, guy going for the most power is really just going to lean towards something larger, like a 2300. And
most
that's
definitely.
okay.
Yeah, as long as the motor's big enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's say you have a smaller motor, like a 5-liter Mustang.
Yeah.
Like a 2011 5-liter, Mustang. Like, you might not want to go up on that bigger size, maybe like a 1900.
Yeah, depending on if it's going to be daily driver, I'd probably do a 1900 on that.
Right.
That would be the best choice.
Right.
And then, if it's a drag car, I would probably shoot more for the
Sure.
2300 at that point.
So really, it could also come down to combo. Maybe it's a stalled automatic with like a 4,000 RPM stall. Might be better off with a larger.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, in those cases, you can get away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But when the stall is low, I mean, for example, even like the new Camaros and the new Corvettes with the A8s in them, they have a fairly low first gear, but they also have a pretty low stall converter.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things where you need that torque to get that car moving.
Sure.
Camaro's not a light car.
No.
I understand it's lighter than the previous generation.
Lighter than heavy. Yeah.
It's still not what I refer to as a light car.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it needs all the torque you can get out of that, and same with the Corvette. I do often hear, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to go centrifugal because it's softer on the tires, it's this and that. In reality, I can't find any reason you'd ever want to do that for me. I mean, you can either, number one, drive the car, or number two, I don't.
Boom! Exactly. This man's a genius. I told you this guy's smart. Exactly. I'm right. It's been a while since I watched this video, but that's exactly why I just want to stop it and say, if you're going to go centrifugal, you're going to get a big power number. It's a peak power number, but you got to think about under the curve. When the car is working or it's trying to haul ass down the strip, you're losing a lot of power that could be there in order to sacrifice for that last couple hundred RPM. It just doesn't make any sense to put a centrifugal. I think, honestly, myself for the street, they're a waste of money. Like I said, it's a turbo on a shaft with you got a fixed lower pulley and you got a fixed pulley on the blower itself. So, like I said, unless you need to be at a certain footage, at a certain mile per hour, at a certain time, and you can calculate that because it's more consistent than anything. A turbo is going to take PSI, you know what I mean? You can make sequential, you can, anti-lag, you can put nitrous on. I mean, you can do all this stuff to freaking get different power curves out of a turbo system, but centrifugal is just not the way for me, I don't think. But I'll let him keep going here. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in the till there.
Any one of these, and I can set my RPM versus throttle position to handle it.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
The thing about it is that if you build something that way that you're limiting yourself at low speed torque and not having so much torque because you're worried about tire or something like that.
Right.
Well, some tracks I've gone to, I can definitely, make the drag radial spin leaving the line. But then other days there's tracks that are prepped well.
Right. And you're hooking.
Days, you need all the torque you can possibly put down.
Got everything.
It goes fast. And that'll be the difference between you running 10s or 9s and somebody else running 11s or 10s.
Right.
So,
Well,
which is huge.
that makes perfect sense, and actually leads to my next question, which is, can you go too big on the supercharger? And I know we were talking about optimizing a minute ago, but
Yeah.
is there a line where now you've really crossed the line and yeah, you know what, that blower is just too big? I mean, we hear turbos all the time. You know what, man, that turbo is just too big, and you know, for what you're doing, it's going to spool at 6,000 RPM. Do you have any worries on, you know what I mean, on the extreme side of things?
Yeah. Well, with our products currently, I don't think that's a big issue because unless you're going to run a 2.3 or 2.0 liter engine,
Right.
You know, in those cases, then Eaton would be too big in those cases.
Okay.
But the majority of people who are going to boost their vehicle, they're going to buy the biggest vehicle they can, not the biggest vehicle, they're going to buy the highest end vehicle they can normally, get the biggest engine option they have, and then they're going to go for some boost from there.
Right.
So with our current line, I would say it's really not possible. You could put pretty much any of our blowers in most cases.
Right.
You know, we of course are always looking at it, and will neither confirm nor deny the presence of a potentially larger unit. We'll just have to wait a little later this year to see where that ends up.
That's okay.
Yeah, so maybe someday in the future we will see the point where I could say, yeah, that's too big of a magnificent blower for you there.
That's cool. That's a good target, right?
Yeah, I bet.
If you guys will notice, if you look over Mike's left shoulder, you see the testing for the Camaro. This was filmed prior to 2650. So at the time, this man and his team were actually engineering the Maggie 2650 when they recorded this. So it's pretty cool. But like I said, look over his shoulder, be able to see that white Camaro. I can't remember what they named it. But yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Damn it.
Yep.
That's a good target. So, in terms of the types of customers, so you know, like your shop owner's got your street-driven daily drivers, your occasional track guys, and then your hardcore. You know, everybody kind of is in one of those categories. Who's they're light to crazy, if you know what I mean, in terms of their goals. Is there a typical type of positive displacement blower that generally will fit one group better than the other?
I don't feel so. I mean, they all perform pretty much similarly.
Okay.
You know, these changes we're talking about are not huge. It's not like a turbo. When you're off on size, you're going to be, okay, we used to come out full boost at 2,500. Now we don't get any boost till $4,000.
Right. Okay.
You can't make that kind of change with a positive displacement blower.
Okay.
No matter how big it is, it's going to make a significant amount of boost everywhere.
So whether it's a Roots or a twin screw, it doesn't really have a huge. It doesn't swing.
You're going to make some progress. The biggest thing just comes down to size.
Okay.
Look at the highest, the hardcore portion.
Right.
I mean, the only really big blowers when we start looking at, the funny car, heads up, funny car classes, stuff like that.
Right.
Then you need a really large blower.
Right.
And it's just a matter of choice.
And that would be a large cased Roots type blower in that.
Now, if you put that large of a blower on a smaller engine, you're going to suffer a lot of efficiency.
Right.
Because when these Roots blowers are at low speed.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo. And he's going to get into it here in just a little bit. But the blower size to the size of the motor. What? Can't talk tonight, guys. The motor is huge. And that's why I'm pushing this LT4 stock as far as I can. Because you'll be able to see all this heads and this cam and everything. Guys are spending a lot of money when they really don't need to. I mean, this engine, the way you have to think about it is the supercharger will produce the air. But if that engine doesn't have the balls behind it to actually consume it and turn it into kinetic energy to descend through the transmission, it does you no good. You're overwhelming the engine. So the 1.7, do I think it's a little small? Yeah. Do I need a bigger blower? Probably. But right now, I think I'm going to try to max it out just to see what you can get out of it, because you'll hear Mike say in just a little bit that this blower is pretty freaking tough. I think you can spin it up to I think you can get 25 pounds of boost, about 26. It's just under 30,000 RPM. So those of you guys that have a ZL1 or a ZL6 or whatever, I mean, you can really push that blower. Don't worry about abusing it, because they're actually really, really tough. But yeah, going to a bigger blower or just throwing the biggest freaking thing you can on it. It's also going to come down to cam size too. But I think, like I said, I found a new tuner. after this, I'm gonna go out and do a little bit of testing. I got to send some logs over to him, but I think here in the near future, we're gonna see exactly what you can get out of a stock long block LT4. So I'm gonna let him keep going here. This is pretty interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So the bigger unit you get,
More
you
leakage.
pretty much count on the less efficiency you're going to have at low speed.
Right.
So you're essentially going to take more power to drive the blower for less output.
Makes sense. Absolutely. So efficiency and pumping loss and things of that nature, just they add up.
So there's definitely a point where you go too big and you're going to get beat by the guy with a smaller blower because he was sized properly.
That makes sense because your pumping losses are there whether you're at part throttle or full throttle, right? I mean, there's yeah. I mean, you still have some parasitic losses there from it.
The biggest thing you have is that with the roof.
Okay, I'm gonna say here right now, he's gonna be talking parasitic drivetrain loss, I think, here in just a little bit. What's up, Mr. Noob? How we doing, sir? It's good to see you, buddy. He's gonna be getting into it, and I agree with him after I broke it down and really thought about it and everything. I'm with this guy. I don't think that positive displacement blowers are a parasitic drivetrain loss, but I think the reason you have to take into account for everything that we got, they had to make 650 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, make a 4,000 pound car feel fast. Anything beyond that, it's up to us. So that's why I did the gearing that I did. You kind of have to take everything at face value. They gave us a lot of things as far as like over-engineering the transmission and the diff and this and that. There's some weak links to the car, and we're going to be finding them here in just a little bit. But that's why they did what they did, and that's why I'm modifying what I'm modifying. So if you're going to be taking an approach, you might want to... I'm just putting this out there because I think it's very, very important for guys to understand why you need to do what you need to do. You also need to map out your build and don't waste your money. So a lot of this information I'm putting on a live stream. That way everybody can go back and watch it again. And it'll really help some people out with their builds, I believe.
And when I define parasitic, there's pumping work.
Right.
And then there's parasitic.
Okay.
So parasitic is truly energy which is not being used for anything.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So
this is important.
That's bearings. That's seals.
Okay.
That's belts.
That's a good description.
That.
That's
it's
good.
Things that you get no benefit for whatsoever. The work of the blower, turning the blower itself, is that's pumping work.
Right.
You're using that work. You want that.
Right.
And you'll always hear the turbo guys say, well, we're using the end exhaust energy, and okay, yeah, it's an enthalpy device, so there's a portion of that exhaust energy that's being used, and the rest of it is back pressure.
Right.
So it's not even quite a 50-50 mix. If I sit down and do the math, you can pretty quickly see, okay, well, we have a potato in the pipe, and we're going to boost the top. And unless you're going to run a unit without any wastegate at all and optimize it for it, that's the only time you're going to run a near net zero or a slightly positive differential across the engine. With a Roots or any supercharger, you always have a positive differential. So while we're seeing that belt work being used from the crankshaft to turn the blower, when that engine has 10 pounds of boost on the intake side and 0 on the exhaust,
right.
I gotta be honest with you, stand back, I can sit here on the dyno and watch the engine just start rolling over with no fuel in it, because you do gain some of that belt power back through the pumping in the engine, because it's a positive differential across the engine. So I mean, a lot of people think, oh, turbo's free, supercharger's using 100 horse.
Right.
I mean, that's a total crock. I mean, if you get into any scenario where you're actually going to sit down and do the math, you'll quickly find that's quite incorrect.
Okay.
So there is a slight difference. You do get that exhaust energy. It's a small percentage. It's probably 15 to 20% of the actual pumping change. So.
And that's, ladies and gentlemen, it's exactly why Mike Sitar, this guy is a freaking genius. If there's anybody in the automotive field as far as engineering wise, this guy, I could sit and listen to him all day long. This guy, he's one of my favorites, man. The blower is not a parasitic drivetrain loss. It doesn't take copious amounts of horsepower to run to get XYZ in return. Yeah, so that's why a lot of manufacturers went with them. You set it on top of the engine, you deal with heat management, you set it and forget it. It's super simple. You can throw a warranty on them. It's self-contained. It has its own oil. So, but everybody's we're pushing times, and you know, everything has to progress. So power levels are increasing, you know, expectations, hype, marketing. Camaro got none, but it's all increasing as time goes on. So they got to turn up the wick, man. So I think that's why everything is going to turbo nowadays. But as far as aftermarket wise goes, this is really, really good information for you to build a good, reliable build. So for those of you that are interested.
A lot of people think it's the other way. There's this huge benefit to doing something, and it's not that big.
Right, it's not that big. That makes sense.
Right.
That does make sense. And so on the air charge side, I've seen intercoolers have come a long way from 20 years ago, 10 years ago, today, and a while ago, it had to be probably 10 years ago. I was seeing people buying kits that are non-intercooled. And I'm looking at it going, why would you do that? I still can't wrap my mind around that. And I would have to imagine it was cost back then, or maybe fitment, but I don't hardly see non-intercooled systems anymore. Other than that, do you know of any reason why people were going one way or the other?
Yeah, no, I mean, back in the early days when we looked at the Ford Mustang, stuff like that, we had an engine which was really low compression ratio.
Right.
I mean, most 5 liters are about 9.0 or
right.
9.2 to 1 compression.
Right.
You could easily add a few pounds of boost to that without getting into detonation issues, and add a bunch of power without an intercooler with really simplicity, very simple system.
Right.
Simply put a unit on the front and run some boost into an engine. In today's world, I mean, compression ratios, everything's about fuel economy. We have to see the compression ratio to get that fuel economy. And then once you have that compression ratio, any additional temperature in that inlet will push you closer and closer to that detonation limit.
Absolutely.
Today's vehicles and new vehicles, I don't see anywhere we're going to go. In fact, most of the time we spend is focused around understanding the efficiency of the intercooler we're using and finding every way you can optimize it for that particular application.
That makes sense.
So it is it's probably as big of a part of it as designing the blower.
That makes sense. And when you do the intercooling on a roots type blower and you sandwich it, you sandwich that, what do you see as upsells? What are the good ways to improve that efficiency? Because I know people will do that. They'll do a water to air, put a heat exchanger up front, those things that type come to kits. What's the best, in that scenario, what's the best thing you could do to get rid of that heat?
Well, of course, you have to have big coolers at both ends. I mean, the biggest cooler out front you can get, and of course, the most efficient one is great.
Right.
The same inside of the unit. A lot of our work is spent around not only trying to fit a bigger cooler in, but it's also around trying to make sure we can distribute the air equally through that cooler. Because if you put all the air through one section of that cooler, it's no good. It's no more effective than a small cooler.
Right.
So you have to find creative ways to do that.
Right.
And a lot of our efforts done like that the whole way through. We started initially with most of our designs on the airflow bench, which is, just basically looking at airflow to make sure we can meet the requirements we want to see through these components. Then from there, we go to a supercharger test stand where we can run them and record temperatures at every port. Now, granted, that's not exactly the same as a vehicle because
you have other stuff
pulling different points.
Right.
But we will restrict them so we can even flow through every port, and then we can run the unit on the test stand, driven with electric motor.
Right.
At the boost pressures we want to, we can run up to 20 pounds of boost, no problem on there. And then look at the outlet temperatures at each port, make sure distributions are pretty close.
Right.
Then head to the engine dyno and validate the whole thing at the end to make sure we're doing what we want to do.
So you guys have a pretty long process.
Which is exactly why I decided to go with meth. I know a lot of people are like, oh man, what if it quit spraying? What if it quit? The more and more time progresses, and I actually just got off the phone with Alki the other day. There's other ways to which you can kind of get a gauge or get a feel for pump health. So I thank Justin Keith for talking me into going meth, because the water meth, when you're spraying it into the inlet and it's going into that piping hot motor, it actually turns to steam, and you're actually getting a lot of benefits, like port injection. You know how a lot of people are saying, oh, it's direct injection. You're getting built up in scale on the intake valve, and you're getting those benefits right away from the meth. So you're getting steam cleaning on the chamber, the combustion chamber, and as far as the back of the intake valve too. as long as you're into it. Or as long as it's spraying, I should say, not like, you know, a gauge of interest. I'm saying as long as you're into the throttle and that freaking pump is spraying, you're getting those cleaning benefits. That's just one. Plus, you're chemically creating an atmosphere, kind of like nitrous. Nitrous, it's very consistent because it's all coming from a self-contained bottle. You're chemically creating combustion, the combustion environment, I guess you want to say. Conditions. Yeah, conditions. Let's go with that. So you're chemically creating that, and it's very consistent. So like right now, you know, fall, they call it, oh, boost season's here, whatever. You have boost season 365 days a year. So when you're pumping that stuff in there and you're chemically inducing it and you're forcing it in there, that's the way to go, buddy. That's the way to go. But intercooler is very, very important because Roots blowers are very, very hot running. They do create a lot of heat, cramming that air together. I thought about doing a reaction to another video, and I'll break it down. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or whatever, drop them below. But I'm gonna finish this video out here. We ain't got much further, so.
From just some stuff from Eaton, you know, some rotors and whatnot from Eaton.
That's right.
To the end point.
The plus is, yeah, like I said, we have a pretty long relationship there with Eaton.
Right.
Magnuson's been working with Eaton for probably upwards of 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we have access to all their facility as well, which is beneficial to understanding.
Sure.
As well as, you know, making the most out of the blower we can possibly get.
That is very, very cool. Well, I am out of questions for you, my friend.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything you can think of that you'd like to, you know, let the people know who are watching about, you know, positive displacement blowers?
No, like I said, I like to say I'm, you know, fairly new here, as we spoke earlier.
Yeah.
It's a new place for me. I've been at Eaton there for 11, 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a drag racer,
Sure.
through and through, an engine guy.
So it's
I've been
natural.
building cars since my father could get me to walk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of just been a great changeover for me. I love being here and excited to, you know, be able to share the new products that Magnuson will release.
Sure.
You know, now that I will be placing a little different focus on the company than what maybe.
All right. Yeah. Mike's awesome. Mike's a great guy. Like I said, I had a chance to talk to him on the phone. You can ask him a question. It's just like that. It's just like he'll just freaking spew all, and it's right on the money. The dude is so smart. I appreciate that guy so much. And we are going to be putting the port injection kit here on real soon. I'm so freaking excited for that. Those of you just coming in, well, like the video. What the fuck? Come on. Like it and make sure you're subscribed. I got Gale. I'm going to let him finish this out as far as the difference. He's going to come in. I think I got it queued up here. He's going to come in and he's going to kind of give you his touch on a centrifugal blower as well. But it's going to be that same video just later on. I think I left the screenshots up. So if you guys want to go back through and rewatch all these videos or whatever, or actually this one, but yes.
Why aren't you running a big centrifugal? You know, from those guys in the Midwest, I mean, that gives you a real good throttle response. Yeah, if you're staging at 6,500 RPM,
right,
and the belt speeds up and the shaft speeds up on the compressor, but if you're driving this...
Right, which is exactly what I was saying. You have to have the engine RPM to get... I don't mean to be busting in. You have to have the engine RPM up to make any kind of power with these things. So your power is 100% up in the upper RPM range. You will get a bigger peak number. That's what everybody's chasing as far as dyno numbers. But it's under the curve. What's the work? What is it actually doing throughout the duration up until peak? So...
in a truck and you're starting to want to pull a trailer, or you're coming off a turn in your race car and the RPMs are down, especially road racing, you got a belt-driven turbocharger. Why on earth would anyone do that? Well, not for throttle response. You've got supercharger leg.
Yep.
We ran that comparison years ago, And actually matched compressors, one driven by a turbine, a turbocharger, and one belt driven, same capabilities.
Yes.
The turbocharger beat the supercharged
Every time.
setup from a roll, an idle roll where you just met it on the same car. In other words, it was a Mustang with a small block Ford. And we tested on the same car, same piece of road, the whole thing. You get blower lag with centrifugal superchargers. They have a narrow sweet spot, and so does a turbocharger. So compressor efficiency tells the tale. Here we go. Let's look at the roots. This is the red line. The roots is best at the lowest speed.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to mute myself there. You guys can go back and watch that. That's kind of my take as far as the tube blowers go. A lot of people don't break it down. They don't tell you shit, and the end result is you don't know shit. The only thing that you know is what other people are bragging about. And there's a very, very good breakdown. It kind of gives you can come back, rewatch. As a matter of fact, you can do your own research and everything. So if you're looking for something to put on your ZL1, and if you want to know why I'm moving forward, I'm going to be doing what I'm doing. This is it, man. So I think I'm going to be staying roots. It's very consistent in power. You can spin the hell out of it. It creates a lot of heat, but I can make use of meth and I can intercool it to bring those temperatures down. And you can induce nitrous too. So there's other ways to get the end result of what you want. It's just, I thought that would be a pretty interesting video. Did you guys have a good week, Mr. Noob? I've been hearing a lot from you lately. I like it. I appreciate the interaction from you, sir. I don't think your wife needs to be driving a GT500 anytime soon, but other than that, yeah, appreciate you, buddy. So, yes, sir. Okay, fellas. Well, we're coming in on the hour. Any requests? Anything you guys want to talk about? Any questions or anything before I get the hell out of here? Yeah. Because I gotta hit the road. I gotta create some logs, and I'll be making some more content for you guys. So, okay, fellas. Like I said, I'm not gonna be streaming tomorrow because of Super Bowl. Kind of thought I would just come in here and hop on for you guys. That way, we could get it out of the way. I'm not gonna freaking ask anybody to compete with that. So. Next week, I think I'll be going back to Sunday. So, yeah, I'll create the stream here in just a little bit. Other than that, like the video, please. And I will be seeing you guys next week. Subscribe. Take care. Have a hell of a week. And I will catch you guys later. Yes, very important. As a matter of fact, it's a life or death thing for him. You guys take care. I'll be seeing you guys later. Yeah, enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody.